Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Today's video is going to have a bit of a different tone. However, first, I would like to mention that I am now on Wizio, which is a platform for experts or specialists to be able to answer specific questions anyone might have that are not answered in my social media, or for anyone who cannot afford private one-on-one coaching with me. So I will leave my Wizio link in the description for anyone who might be interested. And as always, if you are interested in private narcissistic abuse recovery coaching with me, please visit my website or send me an email. Both are linked in the description below. Okay, today I'm making this video from a place of grief and heartbreak and sorrow. One of my son's very close friends died tragically in a car accident a few days ago. I went to his service, which was beautiful, but also one of the most difficult and heartbreaking things I have ever been to. Not only because I knew this boy, and he is sweet, precious, kind, funny, talented, loving 17-year-old child. And of course, that is always heartbreaking for any mother or father or sister or family to go through. And no one would wish this on anyone ever. But this family in particular was a family who was there for me during my last custody trial and the extreme alienation that I was living through. The child that died, his older sister, was my son's long-term girlfriend, and I became good friends with the entire family. During this time, my son refused to live with me. Even though the judge had ordered I have temporary custody, the alienation had gotten so extreme that my son refused. At this point, he was 15 or 16 years old, and the pressure he was under from his father and his family and my own father made it impossible for my son to survive psychologically without psychologically splitting. The alienation, or the psychological and emotional child abuse the child is being subjected to by the alienating parents, grandparents, and family members is just too much for a child. So they psychologically split as the alienating family members force the child to believe the lies that they are telling the child about the targeted parent. So the child will say the alienating parent or grandparent is perfect and wonderful, and they only want to be with the alienating parent or grandparents, and will say the targeted parent is trash, and will begin to vilify the targeted parent in public to anyone that will listen, and will even start to take on the exact words and tone of the alienating family members. The child will sound as if they are actually the alienating parent. It's as if the alienating parent has invaded the child's body and is literally speaking out of the child's mouth. This, of course, is a dead giveaway that this child is being subjected to extreme child psychological and emotional abuse. As I mentioned during my custody trial, my son was dating the girl of the boy who died. My son flat out refused to live with me, regardless of what the court orders said. He had seen and witnessed his father ignore and violate the court orders his entire life. So he knew he could violate the judge's orders because we had a judge who was not interested in the least in doing his job or enforcing his own court orders. So my son had been subjected to the violations of the court orders his entire life. However, at least this judge had the wherewithal to know that my son could not, under any circumstances, go live with his father. When you have a severely alienated child, then the court must take immediate action, and it requires a 90-day enforced no contact court order between the child and all alienating family members so that the targeted parent and child can get the intervention of a parental alienation subspecialist. No qualified mental health care professional would even ever take a case of this nature without the court orders being in place. You cannot treat a brainwashed and abused child when you are allowing them to speak to their abuser every day. The therapy just will not work without the court orders. Then you must get a parental alienation subspecialist to do the intervention. It takes roughly 4 to 5 days to turn the child back into the person that they were before they were subjected to the extreme alienation and child abuse. But again, it requires an active, enforced, no contact court order between the disturbed family members who are abusing this child in this manner and the child. Family courts are beyond uneducated about this. Most therapists claim they know what this is, and they really have no clue whatsoever. So because I was unable to obtain the court orders forcing the child abusing family members to stop, the extreme alienation continued, and my son got worse and worse. It was one of the most heartbreaking things for a mother to have to witness. Her own child that she loves more than anything in the world turned against her, hating her, calling her the most filthy, disgusting names you have ever heard, threatening her, lying about her, publicly humiliating her. I nearly gave up a million times, but I would regroup and continue to fight for him because I knew, and I still know, I am the only unconditional loving parent he has. I just couldn't walk away. So during the custody trial, pretty much everyone believed the disgusting smear campaigns that were launched against me, except for this family that I have been talking about, whose son died. As I mentioned, my son was dating this boy's older sister. Oops. So he was at her house all the time. She and her mother saw clearly what was happening, but honestly, they were the only ones who could really see what was happening. She had seen some of the demands my son's father made of him. She saw clearly that my son was in dire straits for protection. She even offered to come into the court and testify against my ex, telling the court what she had witnessed herself. She and her mother were sincerely scared for my child. She was 17 years old at the time, and we walked into that courthouse, and lo and behold, my ex's entire family was waiting for us to arrive in the court waiting room. They began to harass her, telling her, "May God forgive you for what you're about to do. How could you do something like this?" And no one in this court, no bailiff, no one stopped this. No one came to our rescue. On top of that, my cognitive dissonance was still overpowering me. Even though I was seeing and hearing this with my own eyes and ears, I struggled to believe this was actually happening to my son and I. Unfortunately, during this time, I was so frantic to stop what was happening. The alienators set the stage then to call me crazy and hysterical, and to a large degree it worked. They would provoke me with the safety and well-being of my own child, walk up to me and say the most horrific things in my ear. Then when I would have a reaction, they would lie and say, "Look, she's crazy. She's just a junkie. No wonder her son hates her and wants nothing to do with her." Everything they do, especially when you are in court, is premeditated and calculated. I was continually reported for child abuse and crimes that I had nothing to do with. I was under 4 42-day investigations for child abuse in 2 different states in 1 year. And that's just in 1 year. Thank God the investigators investigating me and these lies and false allegations saw the truth. But other targeted parents aren't so lucky. And of course, malignant narcissists love court. They love having the spotlight. They love having the attention. They love smearing the targeted parent's reputation, the relationship between the child and the targeted parent. And of course, they get tremendous levels of narcissistic supply, watching the child further abuse and humiliate the targeted parent. That way, they can say, see, it's not me or us who keep the child away from that parent. The child hates that parent and only wants to be with me because I'm so special and perfect. And if any family court professional is too ignorant to know what they are looking at, then you need to find another career because you are guilty of destroying families and lives. Another dead giveaway of a sociopathic, disturbed, abusive parent is requests to have the child put on the stand and forced to say the things they have been brainwashed into believing about the targeted parent. And then make the child choose. Choose between the 2 people a child loves more than anyone else in the world. Normal parents would never, ever want to do that to their child. That is what a GAL is for. So anytime this happens, family court professionals better understand you have a very real and very severe case of child abuse in front of you. This is child abuse. And targeted parents are powerless without the active participation of the court. You hold all the power against the alienators. Under no circumstances could the child ever admit that they love the targeted parent and they want to spend time with them or live with them. Don't you understand? If they did that when the alienating parent gets this child alone, the horrific abuse that child will have to endure is unimaginable. This is child abuse, and the child has to survive. Family courts just sit there and do absolutely nothing, as in my experience being in the family court for 15 years with the same judge. Then the alienation and abuse continue, and this child is getting worse and worse and worse and looking at a very disturbed and difficult adulthood, full of trauma, likely to marry a narcissist themselves and become alienated from their own children. This is passed down from generation to generation. The judge I had is one who ordered the psychological testing be performed in 2008 because I begged him. I told him something is seriously wrong here. He's not a normal person. So he got a court-appointed psychiatrist to evaluate both of us. And that's the very first time I heard the words narcissistic personality disorder in 2008. They did nothing. By the time my son was 16 or 17 was the first time I heard the words, your ex is a sociopath. Do not ever be alone with him. He's dangerous. And this is by one of the most well-respected parental alienation subspecialists on this continent. Guess what the judge did? Nothing. Zero. Nada. Back to my previous point. Had it not been for this child who died's mother taking my child into her home and mothering him just as I would have, and another family who was wonderful and gracious and took my son into their home and again mothered him the way I would have mothered him had I been given the opportunity. And as heartbreaking as it was to have no other alternative than to hand my only child over to other mothers to care for him, because this court refused to give me the 90-day court orders, it was the best option I had. and I will be eternally grateful to these mothers. And it breaks my heart that this mother of the son who passed, who did so much for my child in my time of need, now there is absolutely nothing I can do for her except pray for her. I feel so helpless. I feel so heartbroken. You know, lots of people say that being an empath is a gift, but I'm not necessarily one of those people. More times than not, for me, being an empath is a curse. When my son hurts or is being harmed or something is wrong with him, I can feel it to the core of my being. While he was being alienated from me, the pain and agony I felt, knowing it was coming from him, was about more than I could bear. Now with this child passing, I feel that mother's pain and suffering and heartbreak, and it's overpowering. And I am completely helpless to do anything to ease her pain and suffering the way she eased mine. I feel completely helpless. I feel her pain. I feel her heartbreak. I feel her suffering with my entire heart. Life is so fragile and precious, and all I can think of is this. God, if I had not been able to get these wonderful families to step up to the plate and help take care of my child, I'm nearly certain I would have been attending my son's funeral. There's really no doubt in my mind that if these families and these mothers didn't step in, that very well could have been my child. So now I would like to talk to the alienators out there, and any alienated children, even adult children that are out there and have come across this video. To the alienators, you are child abusers. This is child abuse. You are a terrorist. You are abusing your ex by proxy of your child. You are sick. Normal, loving parents do not do this to their children. Your hatred for your ex overpowers any amount of human decency that you might have had. You are afflicted with a severe cluster B personality disorder, and you are actively abusing your child and your ex and everyone associated with your ex. What you are doing is a very serious form of domestic violence and intimate partner violence. You are actively abusing your child in such horrific ways they may never recover. But what do you care? As long as your lies and version of reality wins, that's all you care about. You could care less about your child. Your one and only priority is winning. You want to publicly humiliate and annihilate and destroy your ex because you're sick. You're beyond mentally ill. You're a child abusing terrorist who needs to be immediately removed from everyday society, whether that's in a mental hospital or a jail or a prison. You are dangerous, and what you are doing should be a crime. And it will be one day. I believe that. There is a petition to change the laws of what people like you are able to get away with. It's called Shane's Law. Google it. This is what you do to people. You're sick. You're disturbed. You're a predator. And you're an intimate partner and child abuser. And one sweet day, everyone will know exactly what you are, including your children. I realize I'm not going to get through to any of you because you are doing this to your child or your grandchild. That means you are a malignant narcissist, a sociopath, a borderline, or a psychopath, or some combo of all of them. Let me say this again. Normal, loving parents, grandparents, and family members don't do this to a child that they claim to love. You're beyond sick. You're beyond being helped. And as soon as society and the family courts become educated about people like you, I have complete faith they will remove you from society and put you where you belong, in prison with all the other sick child abusers. Whether you call what you are doing parental alienation or parental alienation syndrome or domestic violence by proxy or pathogenic parenting doesn't really matter to me. What's critical to understand is that the alienating parent is abusing the child so horrifically that it is causing a mental illness in the child. This is parenting so abhorrent and disgusting that the child actually becomes what the alienating parent is. Now, I would like to say a few words to any child or adult child who might think this could have possibly happened to you. Please, please reach out to your parent. If you have been alienated, your other parent is living in a nightmare that he or she can't ever wake up from. Every day that parent has to grieve the loss of a child, grieve the loss of you, except you're still alive. So it's never ending. The pain and despair an alienating parent feels is beyond what words could ever explain. Your parent loves you. Don't you doubt that for 1 minute. And your parent is fighting for you and for your well-being and safety. Please understand, if this has happened to you, or if you are thinking this could possibly be going on in your own life, then you owe it to yourself and to your parent to contact them. Hear their side of the story. The damage this does to you is unimaginable. You are suffering. You love your other parent, and your other parent loves you. Problem here is you have been lied to and told that your parent doesn't love you, that he or she has abandoned you, and your alienating favored parent has literally rewritten history and forced this false reality onto you. But it's not true. A child needs both parents to grow into a happy, healthy adult. You have a God-given right to be loved and to love both parents. Please, please give some consideration to what I've said. Watch the movie by Richard Warshak titled Welcome Back, Pluto. Read Divorce Poison. Google the 8 behavioral displays of a child subjected to this form of abuse on Dr. Amy Baker's website or Dr. Craig Childress's website. Don't allow the alienating abusive parent to rob you of one more day of being loved by your other parent. Please. Or you can contact me. My email is below in the description. I'll talk to you and we can try and figure something out and how to handle this. But please tell someone. Tell someone you trust. You do not deserve this. No child or parent deserves this. It's a hell on earth I would not ever wish on anyone ever. And for those of you who are watching this and considering having a child with a narcissist or a sociopath, you better rethink that immediately. That is the absolute last thing you want to do, because if you do, sooner rather than later, you will be telling others the exact things I'm saying to you now. Truly abused and neglected children try and minimize the abuse they've been subjected to. Truly abused children will actively tell anyone who will listen that they love their parent and to please let them go home. Alienated children don't do any of those things, and instead vilify and tell anyone who will listen how horrible and abusive the targeted parent is. Truly abused children minimize the abuse. Don't talk about it. Alienated abused children exhibit the exact opposite behavior. They walk around praising the abusive parent and saying horrific things about the targeted parent. And man, oh man, what a continual stream of narcissistic supply that is for the disturbed and personality disordered parent, grandparent, or family members. That's like the ultimate high for them. They get to portray themselves as this wonderful parent who is the victim and the hero and the martyr all rolled up into one. What a joke. Remember, these people will only portray themselves in one of three roles. They will either be the hero, the victim, or the martyr, or some combo of all three. When the reality is they are a predator. They are a child-abusing, pathological, lying, extremely disturbed and sick individual. Okay, that's going to do it for today's video. I want to apologize for the tears. Clearly this hit close to home. And I would like to thank all of the mothers who took my son in and mothered him just exactly the way I would have had this not happened to us. So Connie Tedford, Blanche Ross, Vicki Peters, there are no words. Thank you.